Tonight we have the storied Greg Story, who's done a number of workshops for our committee, and we're very grateful for that, and they're always really, really good. So you all know him, I think, or if not personally, by reputation. He's has a long career and is the go-to guy for this sort of training in Tokyo. Even Shell shows up for
absolutely. Wouldn't miss it.
For Greg's events. So, without any further ado, let's get started. He always runs long because he doesn't ever stop, and so let's get started right away and take it away, Greg. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming to Practical Stress Management for Salespeople. And this is a very unique program. When I talk to sales managers and I say I'm running this course for salespeople, Practical Stress Management, they say to me, give them more stress, as their basic ideology of getting performance out of people. But as we know, that's not necessarily how we're going to get the best performance out of people. And tonight we're going to cover a number of things. We're going to look at different types of stress that apply for us in sales and try and nominate what they are. We're going to look at some principles for handling stress more effectively. Dale Carnegie has written a whole book on this called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And we're taking some of the principles out of that. We're going to develop some strategies for managing stress with peers. And then we'll try and focus on energies for how to be more productive going forward. And we know that stress does have a cost. Many, many years ago, we couldn't put together stress with physical ailments. We couldn't connect the two together, but with modern science, modern medicine, now we know that psychosomatic pressure leads to physical ailments. And there's a whole bunch of things here about, strong negative impact, depression, heart attack, blood pressure. You've got all sorts of things, physical things which happen to us. And this is usually because we have a stressful condition, but we're not actually addressing the root cause. And we're, drinking, trying to make ourselves feel better, we've reached a stress, or we're doing some things which are not actually getting to the main core. We're treating the symptoms rather than the core. And tonight, we're going to try and look a little bit, if we can, at the core. So, in your manuals, I've just distributed the manuals. You'll see on page, let's see, it's sort of like the second page there. It's just got types of stress. I'd like everyone, just for a moment, to try and get a bit of grasp on what type of stress we get. Think about, in sales, what are the trigger points? Or sometimes we call them hot buttons, If someone presses your hot button, boom, you go off. Now for some people it could be religion, it could be politics, it could be a number of things. But in the sales world, what are some things that you've found that really give you stress? It could be targets, it could be not meeting the targets, it could be your leader, it could be clients, it could be any number of things which bang, you get that particular thing happen and off you go. So just take a moment individually, just get down some of the types of trigger points for you, hot buttons for stress.
You're looking for the source of the stress, not the symptoms?
I'm looking for the things that trigger the stress.
Right.
For example, it could be you get an irate client ringing you up and abusing you on the phone when it's completely not your fault and this is completely out of context, wrong from every direction, and it creates a reaction in you. Or it could be it may not be in your present company, it may have been something you saw in the past in other companies where you've had different bosses or we've had different situations with colleagues and these things have triggered something in you. You know this is something that will get you going. We're getting through it there fairly nicely. Now please, you've gotten quite a few down there. With your partner, share what you've found in a pair there and add some of the context maybe to help them understand why this is a trigger point, and then later we'll get some reporting from you on why those things are stressful. So please take a moment and start sharing those. Okay, let's pull it up there. Let's share some of these trigger points of stress and have a think about what we can do about them. So who's got a really nice juicy one for me? What's a good one? Yeah, please, go ahead.
Waiting, providing all the information that your clients wanted on like everything, and them not delivering on their promise to make a decision.
So the client's very demanding, they want in detail, you provide it in detail, it's hurry, 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 we want it yesterday, you do all that and then silence.
Yeah.
Why is that stressful?
Well, because it shows their, I mean, you know, the appreciation that you're working together and you've been, you know, throughout this process that's been going on for 5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, when it comes to the point where decisions have to be made and all the decisions that are made are critical, it's like counterproductive for everything that you've done.
So what's the difference between being annoyed and being stressed, do you think? Is that annoying or is that stressful? What do you think?
Stress is money involved.
Now it can be annoying and we can take it as stress, can't we? For other people that just might be annoying. Right? So I'm just trying to differentiate what's the difference between being annoyed by something, irritated by something, but being stressed by something. Just trying to think about that.
In my own, I have this often, you have something out there, you're waiting, and how I define myself, is this troublesome or actually stressful? And if I start asking them, why didn't they respond? Why didn't they did this or that? If I start analyzing why they haven't responded yet, that is what I call stress.
Yeah.
If I haven't got to that level, it's just troublesome.
Maybe because it directly affects how much money is going into my bank, right?
Exactly.
For you, that is beyond annoying. And how do you feel the stress?
Pardon?
How do you feel the stress?
How do I feel it?
Yeah, how does it manifest itself?
Here, I'm angry.
In the stomach, you get it there?
Yeah.
Right, that's interesting. So physically it comes right there. So that probably means there's a lot of bile being produced by the system, going into the acid, going into the stomach, giving you some sort of physical discomfort from that irritation. Right, so when I talk about annoyance, irritation and stress, I'm trying to really connect what is the stress point. Here's another one. This is a good group, no stress here, this is excellent. Yeah.
IT systems when they don't work.
IT systems which don't work, for example.
Like when you say for expenses on like software or a new upgrade, which is just taking it, which is just hard to use, understand, or it freezes, and you put a lot of time into that, and time you can't really afford to put into that. That's stressful.
So you have manifested systems in the company, in the IT system, which particularly new systems don't particularly work well at first. So you are burning valuable time for this clunky system which you can't see much benefit from, so you feel stress from that. And how does that stress manifest itself for you?
It's I guess anger.
Anger, right? You don't kick anybody in the office, do you?
Try not to.
Try not to beat it down. Okay. Yeah. Are these sorts of things that just you find it's a strong anger, a sort of explosive anger, or how does it come up for you? Just a quiet burn, or?
Yeah, people might see it, but I don't really.
You're not manifesting,
I'm
not showing.
Shouting or, but people can probably tell Joe's everything.
He's upset about something. Yeah. What else we got over here? Yeah, please.
Non-salespeople trying to tell sales what they should be doing to improve their results.
So back office or well, say they're probably cost centers in most cases, right?
Yes,
Telling the production side of things how to suck eggs, basically. Now, how do you find that stressful? Why? Again, what's the difference between being annoyed and being stressed?
It's extremely just frustrating.
Can you pass that down?
Similarly,
Frustrating. How does that frustration come out?
how do I vent it?
Well, how does it come to you?
Oh, it definitely is a lot of bile.
Is it straight to the stomach again, right? Okay. Yeah. And acid sales are going to rocket here.
Yeah, and there's always this need to, damn, I need a glass of wine or something at the end of this day. Kind of like feeling. In terms of how do I
And is
express
it tiring? Is that, tension, is it tiring
It's,
for you?
it's tiring because it's endless.
Endless. Okay. So this is something you can't see a solution for.
Yes,
Right. And does that add to the frustration?
absolutely.
Right, so it starts to pile up. Yeah. What else do we have?
Yeah, very, very similar, but you ask peers, or either sales side or non-sales side, you ask them for something very, very simple. You have a very, very simple request, and they just don't do that. And a simple yes and no question turns into this long email trail or like endless discussions. I just wanted a yes or no or an answer to this question. It should be a very simple answer, but it's not, and you can't move forward with your sales related tasks.
So the admin team is not cooperating in the way you need them to cooperate, in the timely manner you need them to cooperate, with the type of response you want. And so this feels, for you, what is the downside of this would be?
Well, you can't deliver to your client what you...
So you're delaying the quality service to the client, which is going to impact the deal or future deals or your relationship with that client. And maybe those people don't connect the two things together. Yeah. What else do we have over here? Come on.
I find it quite stressful when I have some sort of obligation that's non-work related. Like, for example, I've told my wife I'm going to be home for dinner, and then something comes up where I can't leave. And so I know that she's going to be disappointed that I'm not doing what I promised I would do, but I just can't get out of the office because I'm dealing with something that may or may not be that big of a deal.
And where does the stress point come there? Is it guilt? Is it
I
fear of your wife? Which part of this stress component are we looking at here?
I don't know. It's not directed at anybody in particular because it's not that necessarily that I'm dealing with somebody who did something wrong. They just need my
Just the course of the run of work.
Yeah, and so but it manifests in my jaw. Like I start clenching my jaw and
grinding the teeth.
Grinding my teeth.
We
not
talked
so
about
much
that
my
before,
stomach,
right? Yeah. How about you? Ross?
Well, it's a minor thing, but every day the language, I'm always dealing with a foreign language, and so have I got it right, do I understand right? And that's a part of a buildup that sits there all day long. And then if you...
And what's the downside for you if you don't get it right?
If I don't get it right, usually when I'm involved, we're in the point of pitching the idea and or near the conclusion of a contract signing, so it's money on the table.
So you're at the start or at the completion. So these are critical make or break points in the
Yeah,
whole
that's
contract.
off. But I wouldn't want to say if you have 10 things out there, 2 are really the critical. The other 8 are not so critical, but at the end of the day, they may be part of the 2 later. And I think something in a company like mine, I try to let people with not too much experience give them experience. So in the Japanese context of a meeting, if I let the junior staff have the control of the meeting, even if we've talked about and everything, they're going left, we're supposed to go left, but they go right. The whole discussion is going right. Well, not right and wrong, right, but just a different way we're never thinking about it, didn't talk about. I have to just let it happen. And that is,
so you're watching a train wreck
yeah, I'm just
in
watching
front of your very eyes.
Exactly. But at the other hand, if you don't do it, how am I going to get people? I can't do everything all the time, so
That's
I have to bring people up.
You have to invest in your people, but it's stressful to do that because you see the cost.
Yes, I had hundreds of $1,000s missed because of that.
Would anyone here missing $200,000 feel a bit of stress?
Yeah,
Put your hand up right now.
Of course, it wasn't guaranteed I'd get it, but it's close.
Right.
Yeah.
Similar sort of a thing. It's when you need a response and you don't get it. It's basically lack of control. It's something that you can't do anything about, but you need something to happen that you can't really affect the outcome. And
So again, this out of your hands. Time is now with them. You're in a waiting position, so uncertainty. Time is rolling along. Things aren't happening. There's probably a chain, a consequence.
Right, and you can't see a way to
that sequence.
You can't see a way to address it.
You can't. There's no simple
action.
solution, right? Yeah. That's what's on average.
I guess the likelihood of not making sales target.
Not making, this is interesting, we've been going here for about, what, 10 minutes? This is the first time numbers have even come up, right? Which I find intriguing for salespeople, right? Normally, everyone's held their feet to the fire on the numbers, but you're the first one to mention that, so tell us a little bit about that.
When you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, in terms of your KPI, the activity, the people that you're connecting with, etc., you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but it just doesn't seem to fall into place.
So you're doing all the right things, you're doing what you should be doing, but the results are not coming.
Exactly.
And what's the difference here between frustration and stress?
Lack of sleep.
Right, that's right. You're worrying about it, your mind's not shutting down at night, you're having those, I should have said this, or they should have done that sort of conversations in your own mind. Yeah. Do we have any others we haven't covered? Because we've got some really good ones out on the table now. Any other juicy stress triggers that we haven't talked about? Yeah.
There's one that I didn't. When there's a heavy emotional component to stuff.
For example?
Somebody yells at you.
Ah, right.
Or somebody gets excited, or somebody bursts into tears, or
Yep.
when heavy, overload emotions happen, that lights up all kinds of stuff in your brain and causes all sorts of responses. Right?
Which is worse, the crying or the yelling?
Crying.
Crying. Right.
2 hours crying.
That's really stressful.
Yeah.
You'd
Crying.
rather they yelled at you.
I'd rather be yelled at than make someone cry. Yeah.
Right.
So it's less stressful for me to be yelled at.
How about some others? Who prefers crying and who prefers yelling? Presumably on the receiving end, I mean on the receiving end. Right? And do we feel the pressure? Do we feel the pressure of responsibility for that reaction in them, and we start to doubt it, I didn't say that the right way, or I'm not leading this person the right way. So how are you feeling that?
I don't necessarily think like that. I think it's more, it's like, oh my God, it's like, how am I going to get this person to actually deliver anything going forward?
Right. So now you feel unreliability, lack of credibility, lack of trust in this person, someone that's in the team that's not going to produce because they can't cut it. Is that where the stress is coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make that personal investments to try to get that person up to speed, train that person up, and then the result is something that doesn't necessarily come out during an interview.
How about when they quit? They don't cry, they just quit. Is that more stressful?
No.
No.
When they quit, they quit.
Well, a lot of you told me before, even in your own industry of recruiting, it's hard to get recruits. So when they quit, you've got, okay, I've got to go out and find someone. So there's a gap between end and start. There's a cost of lost opportunity from the projects they were working on. There's an opportunity cost there. There's also a physical cost of money to actually get the recruiting process done. And the whole sequence of events grinds down. So do people find that stressful?
But I mean, I'm not a manager, but these guys will probably tell you that that's the most important. It's a really important variable, right? Their kind of stickability or bounce back ability. So I'd say probably it would be less stressful to train someone else up than to worry about protecting that.
Yeah.
Protecting that guy.
Yeah.
Turning the page back, and I'd forgotten finding a way to have your employee find the door to leave.
Right.
In the north, when we had the earthquake problem,
Yep.
I had 4 or 5 people I just couldn't afford to keep.
Right.
It is very, 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 very difficult to have them find their way to the door and not come back again. And that was, for 2 months, I never had that kind of stress. Really, really long-term stress. That was, it probably took about a couple years off my life, physically.
Well, we didn't talk about that either, did we? Who was here during the earthquake? Right, just about everybody, right? And we had major earthquake, tsunami, nuclear meltdown, and then we had every day for months 5, 6, 7 major quakes. And if we're in Tokyo, we're all thinking this could be the big one, right? So that is highly stressful, isn't it? Your emotion Your adrenaline is preparing for fight or flee, and you can't fight with an earthquake, so it's got to be flee. And so your body's going, okay, let's get the blood to the major muscle groups, take it away from the stomach organs area in case we've got to get out of here. So that chemical reaction is going on a number of times a day, and it's very hard to concentrate, isn't it? Very hard to get through the day. Your energy is being consumed just by that chemical movement. So that's another, in our case here in Tokyo, is another physical thing we have to think about, that we do have earthquakes and they are very, very stressful. Let's think about our language though. When we have stress, it tends to affect how we think about issues. And it tends to affect our language a little bit. And so if we have a look on the next page here, which is page 6 in your manual, you start to see, you know, some views, some maybe self-doubt starts to come out. You might start to take a negative view. I feel out of control. I feel I'm being taken advantage of. I feel frustrated with the situation. I can't resolve it. I feel this treatment is unfair. You will have a number of self-conversations where you will take the stress feeling and translate that into self-talk, which potentially can be rather negative. So in the pairs, just start to put down what will be some fairly typical. Now, it may not necessarily be you. It may be self-talk by people you work with. It may be self-talk for people who report to you, or it could be self-talk yourself. And sometimes we'll get this as sales leaders. You know, someone's not doing their job properly, you're having a conversation with them about their performance, and you start to get that, well, oh, I'm hopeless, I'm useless, I can't do this is beyond me. You know, you start to get that sort of negative self-talk in them, right? Or sometimes you might have it ourselves. So just with your partners, just start to populate what are some fairly typical, and maybe we can make a triad down the bottom here. You want to make a triad so that you've got a partner there, the three. And get down some of that negative self-talk, and we'll try and come and look at that in a moment. Here's the first question. Are we all clear on that? Look for the negative self-talk, either our own or others who work with us or for us. Everyone clear on that? You all good? Okay, let's get some of these out. We'll just hit you with a couple, and then in a moment we'll move on to the next stage. But what are some typical negative self-talk we hear? What do we hear?
I'm going to quit.
I'm going to quit.
Join
Right?
M World.
Sorry?
I'm going to quit.
What else do we hear? What else did you have written down?
In over my head.
I'm in over my head. Yeah, I can't cope with this. What else?
Why am I doing this?
Yeah, why am I doing this? I must be crazy, right? Yeah, what else? What else did you have?
There's nothing we can do about it.
There's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, I have time to give up. Yeah.
This is somebody else, where you just made a comment or a neutral suggestion and say, you hate me, you don't appreciate me.
Oh, so you make a neutral comment, they take it the wrong way and say, you hate me, you don't appreciate me, so they're really down on themselves, right? It's not a trigger necessarily, but they take it that way. Yeah, because the way they're feeling, yeah.
No one's listening.
No one's listening to me, yeah. No one cares what I think, no one cares about what I'm doing, yeah. What else do we have?
This is a problem.
This is a problem, all right? Okay. Yeah. This is a problem, the sense being, this is a problem and it's not solvable or resolvable.
That's the answer to the problem.
Right.
This is
This is something we can't fix, right?
Criticizing another person, like blaming another person, so he's just stupid. Or,
Yeah.
he's-
If it wasn't for that guy, we'd all be looking good, yeah. So let's now look in the next couple of columns and again with our partners, take that example and switch the language, right? Turn something in a positive there. So we take the negative and we rework it into a positive way of looking at it, and then we suggest an action step. So change the language to positive and an action step. It's impossible normally, but we can find a way. Let's get together and brainstorm some solutions together, right? For example, that type of thing. You're taking something negative, you know, I quit, but that's too easy. I think I can actually, with your help, make it. So let me try a bit harder. Let's maybe give me some mentoring. You've been doing this longer than I have. Maybe there's something here I'm not seeing. So I'm hearing the way you can take a negative statement, negative self-talk, reverse it, change the language. And this is an exercise for yourself, and it's also an exercise to work on with others who are negative. You know, I try to run a kilometre from people who are negative. I really avoid those people like the plague. I hear that whinge, whinge, whinge. Phew, toxic. Kryptonite. I'm out of here. You know, don't come close to me. I don't want to be around them. But sometimes you can't avoid it. So then, you know, if you're a leader, well, you definitely can't avoid it. We've got to switch the context, switch the conversation. So this is a bit of practice for ourselves. Sometimes we feel under stress because we're starting to get a negative self-talk. Flip the language, and what's some action steps? All clear on that? So now we do the next two columns. All good? Let's go. Okay, so let's get some feedback. Can we do a bit of a, what was the negative statement, how we reworked it, and the action step? Have we got a bit of a flow through there? Someone give me an example?
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Negative view is uncontrollable.
I think the situation is uncontrollable.
Situation is uncontrollable, but enjoy that uncontrollability and some positives of the.
So look for the positive aspect of uncontrollability. Okay, and what's the action step?
Enjoy the. Yeah, again, enjoy that uncontrollability.
So the action step might be, it's uncontrollable. The positive self-talk might be, well, there are positives in uncontrollable situations. Let me use this as an opportunity to explore getting out of my own comfort zone and seeing how far I can take myself in this new situation. That sort of reworking. Yeah, give me another one. Yeah, please.
I don't have any good accounts.
I don't have any good accounts, yeah, and the positive self-talk would be?
Well, but there are also people who make money off those those bad accounts. So let's talk to them and figure out how to make money.
So I don't have good accounts, the self-talk then is, but I've noticed that others have equally poor accounts, but they seem to make them high revenue earners. So there's obviously a secret sauce there. I'm going to try and find out what that is and apply it with the accounts that I'm having trouble with. Yeah, what else? Yeah, please.
That is impossible.
That is impossible, yeah, and becomes, what is the self-talk there that makes it positive?
Nothing is impossible.
Yeah, okay, and what's the action step?
I was talking about the target, unrealistic target. Then the communication to strategize solution.
So it seems like an impossible target, but actually maybe no target is impossible if we have the right strategy. And I need to find a group of people who can help me here come up with that strategy. So I'm going to call a meeting, invite them, and let's tackle this together and come up with a joint solution. That's how that flow tells. Give us another one.
Give up on that client.
Give up on that client. Self-talk becomes?
Going to work harder to understand, what I'm doing wrong and how I'm not selling it. And
The action step would be?
meet with decision makers, reinforce, my messaging. Sorry, I've been a bit simplistic comparing it to my job.
Well, it might be, give up on that client becomes dig a bit deeper into what the client's looking for in terms of value, and then try and find where we can provide that value so the client actually becomes a regular client for the business and has a elongated relationship that's quite deep. So you're going that way. One more. Yeah.
I said the negative view was I'm in over my head.
Okay.
The positive view would be this is a growth opportunity, a new growth opportunity for me, something I don't know. And then the action step would be maybe to identify key things, two key things, let's say, that make the bulk of that activity and focus on those. Don't be overwhelmed by the whole thing, but just focus on the two things that maybe control most of that.
So I'm in over my head becomes, well, this is taking me out of my comfort zone, stretching me. It's a good opportunity to do that. I can realize now I've got actually a broad array of problems, but they're not all of equal value and of equal strength. And some are leverage points can help me go forward if I can actually address those key points. So I'll ignore the lesser problematic areas and concentrate on the ones of the highest value. If I solve that, then I've solved the whole problem. So the point here is we can often talk ourselves down, or our colleagues can talk themselves down, or if we're leading people, they can talk themselves down. And by switching the language, we can change our attitude so we have some hope. You know, we see, well, okay, yes, that's one way of looking at it. Let me look at it from another angle and let me think about what I can actually do. Because often when we feel stress, we don't have any action outcome in our mind. We're just focused on the stress part going on in our head, but we don't actually get to a resolution because we're not thinking forward as how we can resolve that problem. So we've got to change the noise a little bit. Let's have a look on the next page, which is page 7. Now, these are 10 stress management principles which are very, very handy, which I'll go through and then we'll work in our groups and have a discussion. The first one there, it says, live in date-tight compartments. We often have this problem. We're still chewing over something that happened yesterday, or 2 days ago, or last week. It's burning. It's burning within us. We haven't let it go. And then we might also, to really make it exciting, be simultaneously worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. And so we're anticipating disaster, or anticipating trouble, or anticipating woe, but it actually hasn't got to us yet. And we're not really focused on what's in front of us. Now, date-tight compartments comes from, if you've ever seen a room that seals out all light. I used to work in shipbuilding. If you get down to the bottom of a vessel, they've got these massive rooms where the water tanks are held for the ballast, and they're completely watertight. No air, no light goes out of that room. They're watertight. We say watertight, right? This is the same idea. So mentally we start saying, okay, I'm going to block out yesterday or last week, last month. I'm going to block that out mentally. And I'm going to block out tomorrow and next week and next month and the next 6 months. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to forget about it, but I'm not going to worry about it now. I'm going to concentrate on what is in front of me, what I can do today, and put my full attention on that thing and look for solution. I'm not going to let the future or the past impinge on my energy or my concentration to solve that issue that is in front of me today. Right? That's what watertight compartments means there, or in this case we'd say day-tight compartments. And then ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? So often we don't actually call on it. We don't actually call it out. We have a nebulous sense of worry and concern, which is sort of floating around. We don't actually isolate out and say, well, okay, it all goes wrong, goes pear-shaped, completely goes wrong. Right, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen here? And call it, nominate it. What is it? Write it down. Okay, this is the worst thing can happen. What can I do about that? Right, but don't let it be nebulous. Clarify it. The next one there is, again, we talked about before about the price you pay in your health terms for not doing anything about the worrying, right? You just keep worrying. Yourself, well, I've got to stop worrying. I've got to actually get a resolution here. I just can't let this drag on. I've got to actually take some action and stop this. Next one here is write down the answer to the following questions. What is the problem? And this is often an issue. We don't call it out, we don't analyze it, we don't clarify it. What is the root cause of the problem? Write it down. What is the actual, real, deep-seated problem here? What is driving all this? And then, well, what's causing? Having nominated what the problem is, what's the cause? What's making this happen? What's forcing this to arise? And then, okay, having nominated that, what are some possible solutions we can come up with? And then of those various solutions we've come up with, which are the best solutions we should actually start working on? Next one there is keep busy. Now, it sounds interesting to say keep busy, but sometimes we worry because we're not actually doing anything. We're just worrying. We're not taking any action. We're not actually doing any work. It's just our mind is preoccupied. And the more we give it time, the worse it gets. The negative self-talk comes out. We start driving ourselves down. What this is saying is, have action, have activity. Okay, try and take some of the air out of that worry balloon. Try and take some of the time away from that so we're busy. We're keeping ourselves active, and hopefully we're working on solutions rather than just sort of stuck there worrying about the actual issue itself. And then you use law of averages to outlaw your worries. I'm from Australia, right? And so Australia's a very exciting place where every year a certain number of people get eaten by sharks, right? And, leg comes off, arm comes off, whole body disappears, right? And so you're a bit nervous, and you get in the water, you think, well, it might be me next. But you look at the population, 24 million people, you look at the number of people get eaten by a shark, statistically it's very minuscule. Or we think about air travel, this plane got blown up by a missile, this one missing in the Indian Ocean, this one crashed. I worry about flying, but when you look at the number of people who fly, you look at the number of aircraft, the number of crashes, again, the law of averages says it's a pretty low chance that negative thing's going to happen. So when you look at your problem, the thing that's concerning you, you might look at, well, what's the real statistical chance that this is going to happen? And it may be that actually when you look at it that way, the chance doesn't seem so powerful. It seems more remote perhaps. Again, it's a way of taking the worry out. And this one too, cooperate with the inevitable. If you're in the finance business, I don't think there's anybody in the finance business here today, do you have control over the market? Do you have control over bond yields? Do you have control over currency movements? Do you have control over interest rates? No. All of that is completely out of your hands, but you're still in business. These are the sort of products you're dealing with. You can't fight it. You just got to go with it. So there are certain times in our business lives where it's out of our control, and we've got to just try and find a way through. We can't do much about it because we can't control the sector we're in, or we can't control the government policies or regulations. We've got to find a way through. So don't fight it, try and find a way around it. And then, again, number 8 there, decide how much anxiety is worth and only give it that amount. So it's not to say don't worry, but it's to say don't worry endlessly. Say, yeah, I'm going to worry. I'm going to spend the next 24 hours really worrying about this, really think about, all the possible ramifications. This goes badly. Where would this take me? This train wreck, what is it really going to look like? And really give it some worry. And then say, right, worry time is now over. Now I'm in solution time. Now I'm going to turn my mind, positive self-talk, look for action steps, switch gears, change my base, and go forward. So you put a timeline on it, it just doesn't keep seeping out, sort of, fear creep or worry creep. There's endless. And I like this one, number 9, expecting gratitude. I love that one, expecting gratitude, right? Anyone who thinks things are going to work out, you're always bound to be disappointed. If you're expecting, praise from your leader, you're going to be disappointed. If you're expecting your team to do what they should do, you're going to be disappointed. But if you don't have that expectation, if you expect that, well, people aren't going to do what they're supposed to do all the time, people aren't going to appreciate what I'm doing around here, if that's your starting point, then the bar for disappointment comes right down. And so you don't tend to be too head up about things. And then number 10, count your blessings, not your troubles. And this is the problem. We often forget about all the positive things we've got because we're concentrating on a few negatives and we don't see things in a broader perspective. So there are some principles we can use. So what we might do, and we might get, again, in our pairs, let's say we got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe you could take, let's see, could you take 1 and 2? Could you guys take 3 and 4? Could you guys take 5 and 6, 7 and 8, and 9 and 10? And have a discussion in your groups about, here's the principle, how can we use it? Here's the hint, what can we actually do to apply this, and how would it work in reality? There's the first question. Everyone clear on that? We all good? Okay, let's go. Okay, so let's roll into some solutions here. So let's start with number 1. So number 1 was
live in day-type compartments.
Okay, well that's fine in theory. How do we do that in practice? How do we live in day-type compartments where we don't let yesterday or tomorrow impinge on today? How do we do that?
We were talking that it would make sense to really have a schedule, you know,
Okay.
and use that schedule to your advantage in this topic. You know, don't, if you feel the need to think about some things in the past or things coming up, schedule it. You know, have a little time that you can set aside, that you can focus on that, but don't give it more than it's due. And then focus on the things that you need to do that day.
So in your schedule, you might say, okay, review time for things that didn't work out in the past. What lessons could I learn from that, for example? You could schedule time that says, all right, what would be some things I might want to prepare for in the future? Now, there's a difference between being concerned about the future, and it's rather nebulous, and actually deciding what are the most likely things that would be a concern, and rather than just being concerned, prepare for them. Right? There's a difference between being worried and being prepared. Right? Totally different. When you're just worried, you're just worried. But saying, okay, well, all right, this could happen. When if that happened, what would I do? And what would be the most worrying thing, and let me prepare for that. Okay. What was the second one?
Ask yourself what's the worst that can happen.
Ask yourself what is the worst that can happen, and how would we apply that, and why would that be beneficial?
Help us prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, providing that the worst isn't actually all that bad, which it usually isn't.
So when we call it out, we might find out that actually when we isolate it out, what's the worst thing that can happen, it may not be a total catastrophe. It might be life ending right there. There might be still hope, right? Yeah. It may not be game over. It may just be something, a barrier, a hurdle that we need to now isolate out solutions for. Right? We get immobilized. We get immobilized by the scope of the problem, and we don't get to solution stage.
Well, perspective gets a bit narrow.
Yeah, that's right. Our perspective gets very narrow around that one thing, and we don't see the solutions because we're too focused. Yeah. Any other ideas on those two data compartments? Worst can happen?
I just thought that when I do find myself at home or something creeps in which I worry about, I think the key was recognizing that I'm actually going over it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can try to actually make an effort to not be just chewing the cud.
Yep.
Just recognizing was the key,
Yeah.
which is sometimes not hard to do because you're too busy doing it.
And sometimes, you know, that writing it down part is so powerful because you've called it out, you've isolated it out, and now your brain will get into solution mode as opposed to panic mode. Yeah? So you had number 3. What was number 3 down there?
Remind yourself of the exorbitant price you can pay for worry in terms of health.
Yeah. And why is that relevant?
What to think about that? To compartmentalize it, right? To conceptualize it and hopefully, take a step away from it and focus on the positives rather than thinking about, brain aneurysms and impotence and stuff.
But that could become another thing to worry about, can't it?
Could be. Have we seen cases where people get strokes at a young age?
Yeah.
I'm going grey.
Right? We see that, right? This probably didn't happen so much in the past of relatively young people having strokes, or they're having trouble sleeping, or they're having trouble with the stomach, acid content in the stomach, lack of sleep, which sort of becomes a self-perpetuating source of concern as well, right? Wears you down, wears the energy out, yeah.
Would you consider is it worth giving up all of my actual health for what I'm doing? If it isn't worth it, maybe I should stop.
Yeah,
Get
and
out
maybe
of it.
the situation you're in needs you to withdraw from that situation because there's no win there. Maybe this is not something, I'm putting myself in a position here, there's no win, why am I doing that? Maybe I need to look for something else that's going to be more successful.
As by understanding that then, of course, diet, exercise, understanding, the positive things that can be, a good...
And does stress impact on our relationships?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course.
Your partner will know the moment you hit that door how your day has been by what's on your face. It'd be just like a big beacon. Yeah. And what was the next one?
Write out the answer to the following questions. What is the problem? What are the causes of the problem? What are the possible solutions? What is the best possible solution?
This sounds very simplistic. Why would this be useful?
Providing your own answers to your problems, right?
Where are we shifting from? We're shifting from
Blame.
blame, inaction, concern to what?
Solution.
Solution, right? We're now switching our mental self-talk from negative, I can't do it, I should quit, I'm hopeless, can't do it, can't cut it, to, well, what is the issue? I'm not getting enough clients. Well, why is that a problem? Well, I'm not making enough phone calls. What can I do about it? Make more phone calls, you know? Schedule a time, block out time, make that effort, etc. So we shift gears from panic to progress and production. And it's very simple sounding, but when we actually cut through all the chaos and the noise, and we just isolate out what is it, clarity, getting clarity, because sometimes we'll find that the initial problem isn't really the problem. And as we dig down a bit, we start to realize, oh, actually, this is my problem. This is my problem. How do we go down here? I think we have what, number 5?
Keep busy. So
Keep busy. Well, that sounds very simplistic. I mean, why would keep busy help?
getting your mind of things.
Yeah.
So in terms of methods, I mean like spending more time with, for myself, it's more like spending more time with family, exercise, friends, and then even if it's work related, then it's work partners or clients who you consider like mentors, so you can vent particular situations and problems with and possibly even come up with a solution.
Yeah. Well, I said before about the earthquake, right? I'm sitting in my office, like you are, the whole building's shaking 7 times a day with major aftershocks, and can't concentrate, no clients, no business, no nothing, and contacted our headquarters in the States, and they said after 9/11, they had the same problem. And they said what we did was we started offering free stress management seminars for our clients, and then started to offer them publicly for free, people who wanted to deal with stress. And that's what we did. So we went from sort of nothing to do and worrying about the future to, planning. Okay, well let's plan, let's go and talk to all the clients, offer these things, organise some public. We had a huge number of people come. We did the public seminars all around the country. Boy, I can tell you that made such a difference for our stress levels, because now we were busy, we had a purpose, we had something we could occupy ourselves. We felt we were doing something positive for society. It was helping us too, because we were dealing with our own stress as well as everybody else. So those sorts of things can make a difference. It sounds simplistic, but it really switched the whole office atmosphere from doom and gloom to hope. It was like a light got turned on. It was amazing. Yeah. What's the next one?
Use the law of averages to outlaw your worries.
Yeah. So how do we use the law of averages? How does that work? Dealing with
For
concerns.
example, for example, I'm flying to Shanghai this week, and I'm a bit worried about the flight accident or something. But if you Google it, you can find that traffic accident rate is much higher. Then find yourself comfortable with the flight, for example.
Yeah. When we had the nuclear meltdown, we had a lot of people left town. Some people were ordered by their embassies to evacuate, and some people decided to go. How many people here had a look at what happened with Chernobyl? Researched what happened at Chernobyl. And what did you find with Chernobyl? What was the radius of death of Chernobyl? Do you remember?
There was one that blew like 100 miles or something, like northeast.
Mhm.
So where we were in Tokyo was exactly the same distance from Fukushima.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad told me that. I didn't do the research. Stress me out.
There was a cloud of nuclear waste which went right across Europe, right? But the actual radioactive, really high death zone was 30 kilometres. It was 30 kilometre zone around Chernobyl. If you're in that zone, you're in real trouble. The cloud passed. You
Yeah.
know, it passed. It just
Oh,
passed
okay.
through and didn't have high residue. But again, you look at the law of averages, the things blowing up, do we leave the country, or how far away from that plant Fukushima am I? 250 kilometres, maybe. Yes, and there was a cloud too. A cloud went through Tokyo too, but it passed. But the actual zone, again, so you're looking at it from a different perspective. You're investigating what's the real concern here. What's the law of averages that I'm going to be in that 30-kilometre zone anytime soon? It's not a 250-kilometre zone. And Chernobyl by far was probably a much worse situation than Fukushima. So again, these are the sorts of things you look at. What's the next one?
Cooperate with the inevitable.
Yeah, so why is cooperating with the inevitable something we should be doing?
Uh,
Isn't that giving up?
Sometimes you just have to accept what happens and learn from it.
And why would we have to accept what happens? What would make us do that?
Make us
Yeah, what would force us to actually cooperate with the inevitable?
If there was no action you could make.
Yeah, things out of our control. Yeah, there's nothing we can't, you know. I said before, if you're in the finance business, you can't ring up Kuroda, the government of the Bank of Japan, and say, hey, I think you better take that minus interest rate away. You just screwed up the whole market, pal. You know, that's not going to happen.
Lead in the water pipes.
Lead in the water pipes.
Comes to your house, it's just coming.
You're talking about Flint, Michigan?
Exactly.
Right.
What are they going to do? Bottled water?
Yeah.
They don't have a car, they can't get to the bottled water place.
Yeah, you've got to have water, right? Yeah. What else? Why is cooperating with the inevitable, why does that help us with our stress?
I think if you imagine, like, you draw a picture of a stick man and you draw a circle around it, and then that's your sort of sphere of influence, right? And you have to be able to determine when something exits that sphere of influence. And what's really stressful for salespeople is they're still stressing about something that's already passed out of their sphere of influence. So they can no longer influence it, but they're focusing on it. And I think we talked about waiting for a decision, and that's what's really stressful, is that once a decision's out of your hands, you have to have the confidence that you've done everything you can do. You now have to focus on something else, so maybe it comes back to keeping busy, right?
And the inevitable thing in Japan is consensus decision making in companies. You've got the champion that you're dealing with individually, and you're doing your best to put forward what you think is the best solution for the company, give them value. And then they have to go back and work with the team, and there's probably different stakeholders across the business who get involved, and we have no control over that. And the inevitability might be that the group, there's someone who spikes the business. And that happened with a client, you know, it looked like it was going to be multiple trainings, you know, masses of people, it was looking good, and the HR team killed it internally. Now I can't do anything about that. My champion, you know, lost in that battle, so that business is never going to happen. No good stressing about it because I can't force that issue. It's inside the company. So you did your best, you did what you should do, and it didn't work out this time, well, we fight another day, don't we? We come back. What's the next one?
Decide just how much anxiety a thing may be worth and refuse to give it more.
Yeah, how much anxiety we should give and no more. Why is that important? How does that help us reduce our stress?
Because we tend to stress more, but although things more than necessary about some things. If you're about to lose an account, really think, is it really a big account? If you're about to lose the number one account of a company that saves you 50% of your sales targets per year, then yeah, you should stress out. But if it's a minor account, you're just, okay, it's still not good. It's a loss, but.
And even if it's 50% of the total revenue and you look like you're going to lose that account, how much stress should you give that?
50%.
50%.
A nice share. But at some point, you're not going to give it any more. At some point, you decide, well, we've done everything we can humanly do. At this point, it is now either going to happen or not going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, here's our plan B, because we've taken that as a possibility and we've prepared for it and we've adjusted expenditures, we've elongated the period of time that we're going to give to other things to work on them, blah, blah, blah. So we adjust in our mind that it's not all doom and gloom and hopeless. There's a way out. Yeah. What's the next one?
Expecting gratitude.
Yeah. You never have that problem, I guess, but others
No.
do. You can talk sort of, but others might have a problem there, right?
For me, actually, as we were talking about this, I reflected on it a little bit more. And recently I watched a video on YouTube, and a motivational speaker was talking about finding your why.
Yep.
Like why do you do something? I sent it to these guys, I don't know if they watched it or not, but finding
Simon
why.
Sinek, was it?
Yeah. It was, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was talking about find your why, like why you do something. And then once you determine why you do something, if that becomes greater than any other external force, then you can continue to go when things are getting difficult. And as long as your why is not that you're expecting gratitude from somebody else, then you will not be stressed out when you don't get that gratitude from other people. So if you're what's motivating you is not that your boss is going to tell you good job or somebody else is going to say you did that well, then you won't have to be stressed when you don't get it. And I think that this becomes more important the more senior you become in an organization. Like, nobody shows gratitude to a CEO. A CEO is either going to achieve what they're asked to do, or they're going to be a disappointment. If they achieve what they're asked to do, that's the expected outcome.
Yeah.
So I think at some point in anybody's career, they have to stop caring what other people think about them, and I think that's what this is about.
Yeah.
That's what we discussed.
Yeah, well, that's true, isn't it? If we're expecting gratitude and we've got a strong personal drive, internal drive, then we're not reliant on what other people say or do. It's our personal why is so big, it drives us forward. So, there are personalities though who need that assurance, they want that sort of feedback, they want to be recognized, they want to be approved, who are in our teams. There are people like that. And those people get very, very stressed when they don't get it. So, you find in sales, there's a certain toughness in sales where you go beyond that. And you don't have to have the approval from the client to have your self-value. You have your own personal self-worth, and you measure that in a certain way yourself, regardless of the client. I don't think, if you're in sales, I don't think too many people in sales say, you know what, that client was totally right not to buy my product or service. I don't think you last in sales if you've got that attitude. I think we normally in sales just say, that client's an idiot. I've got great value and I could really help their business, and they've missed an opportunity. Opportunity cost for that client was huge. And I really feel sad about that, but maybe in the next stage I'll have another chance, because my offer is good, my solution is good, but it's a not now, not this offer situation. But boy, they really messed it up, as opposed to I really messed it up. You see how you're switching the gears a bit there to how you see it from a different angle. That was the last one.
Last one is, we didn't really discuss it, so it's totally my comment.
Well, you just have to do it on the fly, Thomas, which
Count your
fortunately for you is easy.
Count your blessings and not your troubles. That on a personal front, I say that to my wife every week, and she still needs to have me say it the following week. So I'm not very good at this one, apparently. I never, in my office, I never have a chance to use like this kind of way of saying something, but it's kind of when the staff makes a mistake, so what it's gone, where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. So that's rather than count your blessings, so where do we go from here thing. So I don't know, the troubles are there, we move on to the trouble, what's the thing we do there. So I'm not quite sure, I'm not able to use this, so whatever you have to say about it would be not helpful.
We talked before about perspective, right? Like the classic is, the man who complained he had no shoes met the man who had no feet. And what's your perspective, Totally different. So you're complaining about no shoes, this guy's got no feet, lost his feet. So your troubles don't seem so great, relatively, right? And we tend to be self-absorbed and self-pressured about things, and we tend to lose the bigger perspective. We're in Japan, right? And we're in a country where there's very low crime, everything works, runs on time, people are courteous and polite, you don't have corruption to get things done in officialdom. You've got the third largest economy in the world, you've got lots of opportunities to be increasing your market share in a very large market. But we forget that because, look at my target, I'm not making my target, our sales aren't going to plan, and we focus on those things instead of, actually, we're in a pretty good place. person I know in the ACCJ, some of you might know her, she's just come back from Hong Kong. I said, what was that like? She said, not as enjoyable as Japan, and talked a bit about that. So, you know, she'd been here, went there, came back and appreciated Japan more for all the things that we enjoy. We're not having problems with the air quality that they have in Shanghai or Beijing, for example, Guangzhou, these areas. So little things like this we just take for granted. But if you actually talk to someone who lives there, they say it's horrendous. It's absolutely unbelievable. So again, we forget all the things that are around us which are positive. And it's just a way of, again, changing perspective about the problem we're facing to see it from a different angle.
I think also reflecting on where you've come from and maybe what was stressful for you, what you were concerned about 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and what your concerns are now. Hopefully you've grown since that time, and so you can, by reflecting on that, it sort of counts your blessings as opposed to focusing on the negative.
It's a revolution of rising expectations, isn't it? And often the people who are leading revolutions are not the most disadvantaged, poorest group. They're often the middle class, you know, because they expect more. When you're at the very bottom, you're worried about survival. You don't have enough energy or bandwidth to worry about increasing your status in society. You're worried about the next meal. But it's those who are fed who are thinking beyond that. And that's why I'd say the revolution of rising expectations across different cultures applies. This is a broad list, because you're right, some people respond to some and not to others. But it's also at different times, some will be more relevant than others. So the idea is you've got some things to go to and say, well, okay, here's a list of 10 things I can apply. Which one of these do I like? Which one of these do I believe is the most relevant for me now in my current circumstance and situation? I'll pick that one, let me work on that one. I think it's the point of selecting and taking action that is the big differentiator, as opposed to stasis. You're stuck, you're immobile, you can't move because your mind is just so preoccupied with worry and concern, you can't actually get out of first gear and actually do something. I think that is the key point. This is trying to give you some stimulation of things you can actually do. If there's any questions about this? We're coming to a close very shortly. This is the first question. Anything we have covered or not covered? Really simplistic, but really, I think, wise component of this is writing it down. There's something in that physical act of writing it down that gives you clarity and gives you focus that just having it rolling around in your head does not.
Well, it's an action.
Well, there's an action, yes, that's right. What is the problem? This is the problem.
The act of writing is that.
The act of writing, yeah, you're taking physical action. Yeah.
To be honest, I work best when I'm extremely stressed. And that's when I'm sort of functioning at my optimal, I feel. I know not everybody's like that, but if I don't have that stress, then I feel like I don't have my edge.
Is that stress run on fear of failure?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, for sure it is, right? Yeah, absolutely. Or desire to be successful, I don't know which one anymore. So that, I use a lot of these techniques like keeping busy, like I do things that will take my mind off work, but then when I'm at work, like I would say relatively intense, and I think that that's driven by stress. So it's interesting, it might not be healthy, but I think some people do.
And what does that do for the people around you? Your high stress level, how does it impact on them? Please share. Please share.
Well, one of his stresses is brown nosing, but it can only be positive.
I don't know.
No, it doesn't affect me. I'm pretty good at just being.
You're focused. You're in the zone.
No, I think I think a lot of people kind of get their energy from their leadership, and it keeps them on top of their toes. And if you see a leader, really into it and driving business, that can only, I don't know if it exacerbates the problem. I mean the stress.
Well, yeah, I guess there's different kinds of stress, right? If it's getting to be unhealthy and it's making you unproductive or less productive, then it's a negative thing. But if it's driving you, then
yeah. Have you heard of eustress? spelled eustress as opposed to distress. Eustress is positive stress. Positive stress. You know, when you're training, you put yourself through positive stress. Extra repetition, additional weight, you know, faster speed, you know, more resistance training, or whatever it might be. That's a positive stress to make yourself stronger, faster, etc. So the difference between distress and eustress. So stress itself can actually be positive. I think too there, Cameron, you know, for a long time, I was like that too. I drove myself based on fear of failure. And then I had one of those enlightening conversations with someone once who said to me, "Why do you do that?" He said, "You know, you're already successful, you've got a PhD, you've got this great job, you know, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. Why don't you live out of your potential rather than your fear of failure?" Had never occurred to me. It had never occurred to me. When you grow up in a poor family and, you know, you're forcing it all the way along the line yourself to make it, you tend to get into a mental cocoon around failure is a big thing you fear. You never see that potential for yourself, and then that one conversation, my stress went away. I stopped living out of a fear of failure. I stopped worrying about winding up in a cardboard box, you know, living in under a bridge. Just changed, one day, just changed. And after that, my whole equilibrium shifted. So there's different types of stress, Cameron. It doesn't have to necessarily be a negative fear of failure. It can be eustress around achieving my full potential. I've got things going for me. Am I achieving my full potential? You know, and drive for my full potential rather than my fear of failure. Drive for what I can do. Okay, well, we might call it there. Well, thank you very much for your participation.